Welcome to the EKG Guy if this is your first time. I'm so glad you're joining us, and I wanted to touch on and review this question that we posted on our Facebook page, okay? There were a lot of questions that were coming in and a lot of good ones, good questions. So I want to review it here, and this question is from a 54-year-old female that came into us with palpitations, okay? And the question here is, what are those red arrows pointing to, okay? And those red arrows being these ones here. Okay, so what is it actually pointing to? A, P waves, B, T waves, C, EKG waves. Don't choose that, so I pretty much gave you a freebie. That is not the correct answer, so we will already cross it out. Or D, QRS complexes, okay? So why don't you try it if you haven't, okay? And take a few moments to see if you can figure it out. In the meantime, I wanted to let you know, if those that want additional practice or questions, you could find us on Facebook at the EKG Guy, or well over 100 people are now following us, and thank you so much for your support. It means a lot, and we're continuing to develop and bring you new content, so stay tuned for that. Lots of new exciting stuff. And you can get to our site if you want to stay up to date with that at here, ekgguide.com. All right, so back to the question. Our 54-year-old female with palpitations having this. So what do we see here? Okay. Well, the answer is P waves, and so let's see why that's the case. Okay, so notice that you have this P wave, and then you have, it seems like a PR segment, this QRS complex, and then a T wave. And then all of a sudden our P wave is not where we expected it. Okay, and notice that it is actually coming closer to our QRS complex. Okay, so now this is actually a P wave that we're seeing, but notice how close it is to the QRS complex. Again, then you have this is your QRS, and this is your T wave. Again, there's no P waves coming up, and what that arrow is pointing to is another P wave. Okay, so P wave, and it's buried within our T wave. Okay, so within the T wave is that. And how do you know that? Well, look at this T wave here and those two that precede it. Notice the morphology that's changing here. Okay, and if you look at the arrow at the end, if you were to just have this arrow, okay, you may say, oh, this must be a T wave. Well, that's true, there is a T wave, but there's also a P wave there. Okay, and so the answer is not B, because we're not asking just what is this arrow showing, okay, or this one, but in fact it's also including that first arrow, which does not show a T wave. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So this one, yes, there's a T wave. There's a T wave here, but the T wave in this case is there, and this is a P wave. Okay, and what's also buried in these other two T waves here are also P waves, and that's what we call complex T waves, or T waves. Okay. Sometimes these complex T waves can be seen in the setting of U waves, and clinically it could be with hypokalemia or low magnesium levels. You could see those U waves popping up even in the setting of an MI. Okay, so keep those things in mind. But in this case, what's deforming those T waves are the P waves. Okay, if you look at the complex that follows, all right, notice this is a T wave, and then this right here would be another P wave, okay? And then all of a sudden your T wave looks back to normal like it did in those earlier ones, okay? And then this complex, this is a P wave as well. So hopefully that makes sense. You could also see that in the leads above it. So if we were to kind of erase this to clarify some things, notice above, so just like you see a P wave here, there's also a P wave there. There's a P wave here that's buried in the T wave, and the same thing above. There's a P wave buried in this T wave, and same in this one. And then you can see that we're back to kind of normal T waves here. Here's a P wave. Okay, here's your P wave down here. T wave, it's your normal one in AVF, and this is your normal one in lead 2. This is your P wave and P wave. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. The other thing I want to know here is that the ventricular rate is faster than the atrial rate. Okay, we use the P waves to find the atrial rate. So if you look here, these are your P waves. Okay, so I'm going to circle them where they would show up, and notice that the ventricular rate, the QRS complexes, are occurring at a faster rate than the T wave. So a good case that you can see that is here. Here's your P wave. okay? And here's your other P wave. So that's 2 P waves. But notice that you have 2 QRS complexes that are occurring within those 2, all right? And that's demonstrating that the ventricular rate is faster. And so this would be a case of AV dissociation, okay? And in the setting of AV dissociation, you then have to qualify what are the underlying rhythms, okay? Well, in this case, looking at those P waves, it looks like there's sinus rhythm is present, all right? And what is actually driving the ventricles? Well, in this case, what's driving it, it seems like the ventricular rate is about 75 beats per minute, okay? You can simply do that by looking at an R wave that falls on the QRS complex. So maybe this one does. We don't have anything after it, but if we look before, it would be this one. So you can count back 1, 2, 3, okay, maybe 4, and you would do 300 over 4, which is 75, so a rate close to 75 beats per minute. And so if you have a ventricular rate like that, okay, this type of rhythm, the QRS complex is also narrow in this case, okay. It may look a little wide in V1, but it's actually narrow. And so what we would call a narrow regular ventricular rhythm at a rate of 75 beats per minute is an accelerated junctional rhythm. Okay, so we will put that here. So you have AV dissociation, okay, because you have a ventricular rate that is, if it is greater than the atrial rate, and you have 2 associated rhythms that you also have to code. So if you're a cardiology fellow or a tech, you know this already, but you have to code both the sinus rhythm as well as the accelerated junctional rhythm to qualify for an accurate diagnosis, okay? Yes, you know, these patients may and likely do need pacing. So one thing to think about, obviously the underlying condition driving this is certainly important. In this patient, it was actually Lyme carditis. So in a patient with Lyme carditis, actually treating the Lyme disease before it even gets there or at that point usually can reverse the conduction blocks that we see, all right? So, you know, fortunately she did well and she reverted back, but did need some temporary pacing in the meantime. Okay, so this is a good case. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we went a little beyond, but yes, those arrows are pointing to the P waves. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now I just want to make you all informed of our EKG course we call the Ultimate EKG Experience. It has everything from lectures, hundreds of lectures, thousands of practice questions, all the books you can imagine, calipers, a community of experts. We share some of our research, our artificial intelligence, a lot of breaking, you know, new innovative stuff that we're really putting out there, okay? And you can win awards, and so it's a lot of fun. If you're looking for the ultimate EKG experience, this is what we would consider it. Our courses are accredited. They are developed by physicians. They are approved by physicians. Okay, yes, we put this content out for free, and you'll find a lot of hundreds, if not thousands of other people putting things out on YouTube, you know, just as we do. But I would be cautious of where you're getting your information from, okay? A lot of good people trying to do the right thing, but just be cautious in where you're getting information. So I want to thank the thousands that continue to support us, the hundreds of medical institutions and programs that are using our resources as their primary EKG curriculum. Well, that's the end of this lecture. I hope you learned something.